The Man Who Never Left. Chapter 1. Keys in the Dark. The first thing Michael noticed about the apartment was the smell. Not bad, not rot or mildew, but lived in. A faint trace of coffee, old paper, and something metallic, like someone had just stepped out for groceries. It was past midnight when he finally unlocked the door. The hallway outside was silent, the kind of silence where you almost hear your own blood in your ears. His footsteps echoed off the bare walls as he dragged the last box inside. The agent had promised the place was ready for a new start. It looked like it. Fresh paint, new locks, empty rooms, but the smell clung to him. He flipped the switch in the living room. The lights flickered before stabilizing. A low hum pulsed through the floor, the refrigerator. Maybe, but it felt heavier than that. Like the building itself had a heartbeat. He told himself he was tired. 3 days of packing and driving will do that to you. He stacked his boxes in the corner, locked the door, and went to the bedroom. That's when the knocking started. 3 soft taps. Not from the door, from inside the wall. Michael froze, keys still in hand. The sound came again, slower this time. He pressed his ear to the wall, but it stopped. He waited. Nothing. Finally, he laughed under his breath, a dry, nervous sound, and blamed the pipes. By the time he climbed into bed, the smell had faded. Or maybe he'd just gotten used to it. He closed his eyes, let exhaustion pull at him, and heard keys turning in the lock. Michael sat up. The door was still closed. He waited in the dark, barely breathing. No one came in. But from the corner of the room, he swore he saw a shadow shift, just slightly, as if it had been standing there all along. Chapter 2. The Neighbor's Warning. Morning light didn't make the place feel any less strange. Michael brewed instant coffee in a chipped mug he'd found in the kitchen cabinet, a cabinet that was supposed to be empty. The mug was heavy, pale blue with a faint ring of brown at the rim, as if it had been left there for years. He stepped into the hallway to toss some trash. That's when he met her. Apartment 4B, a short, wiry woman with cropped gray hair and the sharp eyes of someone who notices everything. She didn't smile. "You're the new tenant," she said, not a question. Michael nodded. "Yeah, just moved in last night." Her eyes flicked past him, to the door behind his shoulder. "You've met him yet?" Michael frowned. "Met who?" "The man who never left." It took him a second to realize she was serious. Her voice was low, almost a whisper, as if she was afraid the walls might be listening. "Before you, there was a guy in 4A, lived there for longer than I've been here. Then one day, he wasn't, but not in the way you'd think." She crossed her arms. "People say he's still there, like, not just a ghost. He uses the electricity. He opens and closes things. She stopped, eyes darting toward her own apartment. "Just keep your locks on." Michael wanted to laugh, to shrug it off as neighborly gossip, but she wasn't smiling. She stepped back into her doorway. "Don't look for him," she said. "He'll find you." The door shut in his face. He went back inside, trying to shake it off. But when he walked into the kitchen, the mug he'd been drinking from was gone. In its place sat another one, same pale blue, but with a deep crack running down the side. It was still warm. Chapter 3. 2 sets of footsteps. That night, Michael left the TV on while he unpacked. Not because he wanted to watch it, he just didn't like the silence. He'd finished sorting his books when he realized something odd. Every time he walked across the living room, there was a faint echo. Not the normal hollow sound of an empty apartment. A second set of footsteps. A half beat behind his own. He tested it. Step, step, step. And there it was again. Step, step, step. Michael froze. The noise stopped too. He spun around, scanning the shadows. Nothing. Just the faint blue glow from the TV, flickering across the bare walls. He took another step toward the kitchen. The echo followed. He grabbed his phone, intending to record it, but the instant he hit record, the second steps went silent. Fine, he thought. New building to me, weird acoustics, pipes, floors, whatever. But when he opened the fridge, something cold slid down his spine. On the middle shelf, lined up neatly in a row, were 3 cartons of milk. He hadn't bought any. The sell-by dates were all different, one from last week, one from last month, and one from 3 years ago. A sudden, heavy thud echoed from the bedroom. Michael's chest tightened. He walked slowly down the hall, each step matched by that half-beat behind him. The bedroom door was open, dark inside. He reached for the light switch, and the bulb flickered once, revealing the silhouette of a man standing in the corner. The shape was gone before the light steadied. Michael didn't sleep that night. Chapter 4. The mail that wasn't his. By the third day, Michael had decided he wasn't going to let paranoia take over. He'd unpacked most of his boxes, set up his desk by the window, and told himself he was imagining the noises. But then the mail came. The envelope slid through the slot with a dull slap. He picked it up without thinking, plain white, no return address. The handwriting was sharp, deliberate. His name wasn't on it. It said, Daniel Mercer, Apt 4A. Michael's stomach tightened. He didn't know any Daniel Mercer, but curiosity got the better of him. He tore it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper, perfectly blank except for the faint outline of fingerprints pressed into it. The hallway outside was empty. He checked the other mail in the pile: bills, flyers, a pizza coupon, all addressed to him. The letter was the only one out of place. He shoved it into a drawer and went to make coffee. As the kettle hissed, he caught a flicker in the corner of his eye. The mug on the counter wasn't his. It was the cracked blue one again. Michael backed away slowly, his breath tight in his chest. From the living room, the TV which he'd left off came to life with a burst of static. The screen glowed white, then faded into a dim, grainy image. It was his own apartment, same angle as where he stood. But in the shot, there were two figures, Michael himself and a man standing just behind him, face hidden in shadow. He spun around. No one there. But the TV clicked off by itself, leaving only his reflection in the black glass. And for the briefest moment, the reflection wasn't matching his movements. Chapter 5. The voice in the room. Michael stopped trying to sleep in the bedroom. The couch wasn't comfortable, but at least he could see the front door. Around 3 a.m., a sudden click woke him, the sound of the lock turning. He shot upright. The door was still shut, but the keyhole was slowly rotating, as if someone were testing a key from the other side. Michael grabbed the nearest thing, a heavy book, and crept closer. The turning stopped. The silence afterward was worse. Then, from somewhere behind him, a man's voice spoke. "You shouldn't have touched my things." Michael spun around. Empty. The air was still, but he could feel it, that heavy, almost electric awareness, like someone was standing close enough to breathe on him. He forced himself to speak. "Who's there?" No answer. He backed toward the kitchen, heart hammering. The blue mug sat on the counter again. Inside it, the coffee was still steaming. "I didn't touch anything," he said, voice shaking. The voice came again, closer now, almost beside his ear. "Yes, you did." The lights flickered. The TV clicked on, but this time it wasn't static. It was a live feed of the kitchen, his kitchen, from an angle up near the ceiling. In the corner of the screen, just for a second, he saw a pale face staring straight into the camera. When he looked up, there was nothing in the corner. Chapter 6. The other Michael. Michael didn't leave the apartment for 2 days. Not because he wanted to stay, but because every time he reached for the door, a feeling of resistance coiled inside him, like the air itself was telling him not to go. He started noticing little things. The TV remote moved overnight. Drawers he'd left shut were open. And, worst of all, there were clothes in the bedroom closet that weren't his. They weren't just random pieces, they were identical to his own. Same brand, same faded colors, even the tear in the back pocket of his jeans. But these looked older, softer from years of wear. The cracked blue mug was there again in the morning, but this time, he didn't touch it. He was pacing in the living room when the mirror caught his eye. A tall, full-length one he'd leaned against the wall while unpacking. Only, it wasn't reflecting him correctly. The man in the glass wore the same clothes, same posture, same tired eyes. But when Michael lifted his hand, the reflection didn't follow. It smiled. Michael's throat went dry. The man in the mirror stepped forward, closer to the glass. His lips moved, but the sound came from behind Michael. "You're in my home." Michael spun around. The room was empty. When he looked back, the mirror only showed his own pale, trembling face. Chapter 7. In 2 places at once. It started with the elevator. Michael was coming back from throwing out the trash when the doors slid open, and he froze. Inside, leaning casually against the wall, was him. Same shirt, same jeans. But the other Michael's expression was different, calm, almost amused. The elevator doors began to close, and without thinking, Michael lunged forward. The space inside was empty. No one had been there. Back in the apartment, he locked the door, turned the deadbolt twice. But as he stepped into the kitchen, he caught movement in the corner of his vision. Through the reflection in the microwave door, he saw himself standing in the hallway, even though he was in the kitchen. The figure in the reflection raised a hand, slowly, like a wave. Michael spun around. The hallway was empty. He spent the rest of the day testing it, catching sight of himself in the TV when it was off, in the window at night, even though the room behind him was dark. Sometimes, his double moved when he didn't. Other times, it just watched. By midnight, Michael was exhausted. He sat on the couch, head in his hands, trying to convince himself it was stress. That's when the voice came again, but this time, it wasn't just in the room. It was in his own mouth. "I was here first," he heard himself say, but he hadn't spoken. The sound was his, but the control wasn't. And somewhere deep down, Michael realized he wasn't sure which one of them was actually real. Chapter 8. The Door That Led Back Inside. By morning, Michael had made up his mind he was leaving. No packing, no goodbyes, just the essentials. Phone, wallet, keys. He didn't even look at the mirror. The hallway outside was still and airless, like the building was holding its breath. He pressed the elevator button. The doors opened instantly, too instantly. The car was already waiting for him. He stepped inside, hit the ground floor. The numbers above the door began to count down. 5, 4, 3, 2, and then 4. Michael blinked. The display was climbing again. The elevator doors slid open to his floor, his hallway, his door. He stepped out, heart pounding. This had to be a glitch. He tried the stairs next, running down until his legs burned. But when he pushed through the heavy fire door at the bottom, the air changed, cooler, heavier. He was standing outside his apartment again. Michael fumbled with the key, desperate to at least get inside and think. But when the door swung open, the smell hit him, that faint mix of coffee, paper, and metal. The boxes he'd unpacked days ago were back in the corner. The cracked blue mug sat on the counter, steaming. And standing by the window, hands in his pockets, was the other Michael. "You left," the man said, smiling faintly. "But you didn't go anywhere." Chapter 9. The truth in his voice. Michael didn't move. Neither did the other him. They stood in the same room, breathing the same air. And for the first time, Michael realized there was no coldness to the figure. No flicker, no shadow play. He was solid, real. "Who are you?" Michael asked, though he already knew the answer. The man's smile faded. "I'm you. Or I was." He walked closer, slow and deliberate. "I lived here for years. I ate here, slept here, left pieces of myself in every inch of this place. And when I left," he tilted his head slightly, "I didn't really go. Part of me stayed. The part that didn't want to leave." Michael's throat tightened. "You're saying what? That you're some kind of ghost?" The man chuckled softly, shaking his head. "Not a ghost. Not exactly. I'm what's left when you've been somewhere too long. When the walls remember you better than you remember yourself." Michael's pulse hammered. "Why me?" "Because you moved in. Because the walls wanted someone who fits." The double's gaze locked on his, sharp and unblinking. "And you do." Michael backed toward the door, but the handle wouldn't turn. The double stepped closer until they were face to face, so close Michael could feel the warmth of his breath. "You don't have to fight me," the man whispered. "Just let me in." Michael's vision blurred. For a second, he saw himself not from his own eyes, but from across the room, standing there, pale and still, as something stepped into his skin. Chapter 10. The Man Who Stayed. When Michael's eyes opened, sunlight was streaming through the window. He was standing in the middle of the living room, breathing hard. The apartment was quiet, no footsteps, no flicker in the mirror, no steaming mug. It looked normal. Tout normal. He glanced at his hands. They looked the same. But there was something about the way they moved, a strange precision, like every gesture was deliberate. He walked to the window, taking in the street below. People passed without looking up. The mirror in the corner caught his eye. He stepped closer. His reflection stared back, calm and unblinking. Then it smiled, but his own lips didn't move. "Thanks for letting me in," the reflection said. Michael staggered back. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. His reflection turned away, walked deeper into the mirrored world, leaving him staring into an empty room that was no longer his own. From the other side of the glass, he pounded and shouted, but the sound didn't reach. In the apartment, the other Michael, now wearing his face, picked up the keys, slipped them into his pocket, and walked out the door. The lock clicked. Inside the mirror, Michael watched and knew the truth. The man who never left was him now.